Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S. back here with another video. Happy New Year again. As I mentioned in my last video, I suppose that was specifically for New Year, but as I'm not asleep yet and I normally suffer from insomnia, so it takes me a while to sleep, and I rather foolishly made another cup of tea, which took me longer to drink than I thought it would. Anyhow, I decided to make this video. I wanted to make a video about what I would say to Apple, the company Apple Inc. If I had the chance to ask them. As I often mention, like as a fan of Italian football generally, I would love for Apple to invest in AC Milan, and I was thinking, what if they? I know I covered this idea a while back, but I was thinking, what if Apple could invest in AC Milan and like put in lots of money, as they have a lot of money, so they could take that risk to invest, but also they could in return have like their own products in or as close as possible to the stadiums, to Milan stadiums, including their youth academies or whatnot, and they could sponsor like stands and even possibly seating and things like that. And maybe AC Milan could have a nickname, which could be Apple Calcio Milan. I also, for like Amazon, hope to make a version for Amazon ASAP, and also Alibaba and others. They could have similar deals where they where they invest in the club, but hopefully learn about football or soccer, as they would probably call it. The people who, obviously being an American company, the people who run it. So I think it'd be pretty cool and interesting if Apple invested. And I would love to know what you think about whether you think I'm being naive as ever, or do you think there is a way to get Apple to invest in AC Milan? And do you think it would be worth it for them? Well, there could be a way for it to be worth it for them if they had like their companies inside the AC Milan stores, and as close as possible to the AC Milan stadiums and stores and things like that. Maybe they could sell their own products along with AC Milan products, and things like that. So it could be good for their PR, and I suppose it would be a risk probably worth taking for a company. I think they say has a net worth of over $1 trillion, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, my cat's gone right across the screen. He's quite curious as to know what's going on. But also, trying to remember my thoughts. But from a less selfish point of view, I would love for, as I often say, it's one of my selfish or guilty pleasures, or both, to support Italian teams because they're not always the most ethical. But I support them because I supported them when I was young, and it's sort of for nostalgic purposes, and I think I look Italian, and I certainly did back then. But I would also love for Apple, if I could speak to them, I'd love to encourage them to support tech for Africa, tech training for Africa and things like that. So possibly even education in STEM generally, but especially in tech, which I suppose could be, again, it could be a benefit for them if they trained people in Africa. It could probably be cheaper for them as well, so it would benefit both the company itself and people in Africa, because they would benefit from getting training in tech, and maybe even indigenous Australasians. So those are the sort of things I would love. Basically, I would love for Apple, if I could convince them to do so. Obviously, it's what's in it for them, and hopefully it'll be good for their PR. They'll be able to sell their products in or as close as possible to Milan stores, the club shop, and also stadiums and things like that. And they could help to fund youth clubs and training facilities for AC Milan, for the benefit of AC Milan. And at the same time, the club could be nicknamed Apple Calcio Milan, amongst other things. Could even have the nickname Amazon Calcio Milan and Alibaba Calcio Milan. I think that would have quite a ring to it, in my opinion. But also, as I say, they would hopefully benefit from it. And also, if they trained up people in Africa and Australasia in STEM generally, especially tech, and maybe in the future they could work for the company, and it would be good for their PR again if they invested. I'd love for them to see. I'd love to see them invest like $1 billion or so, if they could, in AC Milan and also in Africa, and possibly for indigenous Australasians. And I think it'd be worth it for them to take that risk because they have so much cash reserves. But I'd love to know what you think. Am I being naive? Would it really be worth it? I know they're business minded. Could they really make that money back in PR and things like that? Could it be a loss leading product? obviously it would put their brand out there, and I'm sure Milan fans would buy from them, and also people who want to support Africa. And again, it could be that they use that money to train staff, which hopefully will make them make even more money as well. So hopefully everyone's a winner, so to speak, except for their competitors, perhaps. But yeah, am I being naive? Is it a creative, dyslexic sort of way of thinking, or mad? Is there a method to the madness even? And I'm sure there's something I was going to say, but I've completely forgot. Again, I'm sure it'd be worth them taking that risk, even if it doesn't quite work out. But I think that's what I was going to say. I hope that they'll find out the rules about football, soccer for any Americans, calcio as they call it in Italy, and that kind of thing, because I suppose I wouldn't want that investment and then it to be taken away, like Man City have some problems with breach of FFP, financial fair play, or something like that. And also in the future, maybe Newcastle could have similar problems. So I hope that they can work within the rules of FIFA and UEFA, and I hope Italian football will support such a deal, because it could be good for Italian football at club and country level. But again, I wonder if I'm being naive. But if I could, I'd convince them to invest in Italian football as much as they can legally invest without getting the club, in this case AC Milan, in trouble, and hopefully towards a mutual benefit, and also to invest in Africa and indigenous Australasians, Aboriginals, for instance, even Torres and Strait Pacific Islanders and Maoris as well. But yeah, I did try and keep this short and sweet, and I've hopefully done at least a half decent job on that. Anyway, again, Happy New Year and peace and love.